Another thing that you've mentioned on your YouTube channel, which also struck a chord with me, was you mentioned like loneliness a little bit, and like this how like it is lonely being a writer, especially when no one around you is doing it, they don't get it. If they think that it's a stupid thing to
Mm.
do. So I that struck a chord with me because I was like, I'm in the same place.
Mm.
Literally no one is writing, no one really cares. I've sent like
Yes,
my
I
prologue to a
know.
couple of
Like,
friends. And they're like, "Oh, we
yeah,
want to read
yeah,
it."
yeah,
And
I
then I send
know.
it to them and they never read it. And I'm like, "Okay, thoughts, guys?
I know.
Anything?" And
It's
they're
like,
like,
do you even care?
"I know." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
read it later, I promise." And then you're like, "Okay, well, I just poured my heart
Mm,
and soul into this, but it's totally
yeah.
fine." So I'm just yeah. What are
Oh,
your
dear.
thoughts on that? How can we
Yeah.
combat?
Wow. Yeah, I definitely remember the videos like I kind of talk about. Yeah, loneliness as a writer is so real, and I think recognizing that is very sad and depressing sometimes because it really depends on I guess who you know and what you know. For example, I work at a bookstore and one of my coworkers, he is a writer and I'm just like, wow, like you have so many writing friends because he was talking about, him meeting up with his friends and doing writing at like cafes. I'm like, how do you find those people? And he's like, I don't know, I guess I did like a, English degree. And I'm like, "Ah, that's so great. I want that. But of course I'm not doing an English degree. So like how am I gonna find writers? And all my friends don't write. I don't have any family members that write or who are writers or even like thought about writing a book. And it's definitely really hard. Loneliness, writing, and I don't know. It's difficult to come to terms with because you're just. But then again, I was just thinking about like characters. That's so sad. I don't know. Characters for me are my friends who write. I think also I'm reading a book called The Linchpin Writer. And I think it's so great hearing people's perspectives as writers and just how you as a writer get other writers. And I think that's so comforting because, of course, when you talk to your friends, like, yeah, can you read my book? And they get so excited about it, but you can't really talk to them about the whole writing experience and the struggles that come with it. And I think reading people's works who are writers, or like talking to you, for example, who is a writer as well, there's something so comforting about it. And like the only sort of example I can kind of make, it's like a universal feeling. Like, for example, I went to like a Christian camp just recently, and just being there with other Christians felt so at home. And I'm just like, wow, this is where I belong. The same way you're with writers, and it's just a feeling. You're like, I don't know, it's something like when I watch other writertubers, I'm like, they get me. They're so cool. And it's just like if I had someone physical who can come to me to write, at cafes and have little cute like late night writing sprints, like that would be amazing. But of course, I don't know if it's so terrible because everyone surely there's people who write around you, but it's just so hard to find them because writers are all writers are all introverts. Am I right? Like I feel like every single writer is not an extrovert, and I think that's even more difficult when we do get lonely and when we are just in our room after school writing our little stories and yeah, we have no one to talk to about it. And then I'm sure you can relate, but when you when you like go to your siblings, go to your friends, and you're explaining your new story idea or like what's happening in your book, and you can just see them like starting to wander off and like look around, and like you feel so terrible because you're like, I'm so sorry. It's not their fault for not being interested. It's just you rambling on about your book because you're so excited about it. But it's definitely hard. I feel like when I hear other writers' ideas, I go crazy. And I think that's just the writer in everybody. But yeah, loneliness is a thing, and I feel like everyone should. Yeah, I don't know how to combat it. I know you said like how can we combat it, but I don't know yet. And I think maybe online connections. At least that's what I'm seeking right now. And of course, I'm getting it from a lot of beautiful people around the world, and also like you. And it does give me hope, I think. So yeah, hard question. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
feel the same way because there, yeah,
Hmm.
no writers around, and like I'm trying to find them. And thankfully people are going online, and like, you know, your channel and a lot of other channels, so it's easier to create that community around you, that it's like, oh, at least I can, you know, watch
Yeah.
this person's YouTube video and they're struggling through NaNoWriMo like I am or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely not the kind of activity like a dance class where you
Yes.
go and there's 10 of you in a
Mm.
dance class, or you go to a concert and there's 1,000 people there. That's a really small concert, but you know, everybody's there because they love the same band, or you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a very isolating hobby, which is, I mean, and it needs to be, because like you need time to think about and do your own thing, but
That's
also
very
it's
true.
like
Yeah.
so isolating that you just end up removing yourself kind of from the outside world, both physically and then mentally when you're writing.
Yes.
And I wish for the same
Yes.
thing. I'm like, I just want to go to a cute coffee shop with like a friend or two and gush about writing, do some writing
Wow.
sprints, and then like
I
that's like the
know.
dream right now.
Dream. Wow. Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. It's so sad. But people, I don't know. I really don't know how to combat it. Like, it is definitely a lonely art, as you said. And sometimes you can't help but, yeah, long for someone who will get you. And it's hard because I guess physically writing with someone and talking to someone in person just it beats every other sort of communication you can have with anyone and any writer.